Thanks very much for stopping by the Digital Creator Daily. If you're new here, I'm Rob from Hey Summit, and this is the daily-ish show where I get to have some awesome conversations with brilliant people doing interesting things. We talk about the creator mindset, staying authentic, assembling your toolkit, exploring platforms, and so much more. It's a pretty relaxed show about and for creators, thought leaders, and independent entrepreneurs. Just a reminder, depending on how you're watching or listening to this, conversation is obviously best when it is shared. So if you are tuning in live, feel free to jump in with your thoughts, questions, and perspectives. And thanks so much for spending a bit of time with us. So I'm really happy to welcome Michelle Raymond to the show. Michelle is a visibility strategist, HR consultant, and a global trainer from three FTSE 250, FTSE 250, FTSE 250, FTSE 250 companies. She supports both business growth across countless industries by transforming the skills of their people. Not only does she train in inclusive leadership and personal branding, Michelle is also a multiple award-winning entrepreneur, TEDx speaker, certified master NLP practitioner, and backing vocalist for some of the greatest pop singers in the world. I'd definitely like to ask you some questions about that, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's good to be here, Rob. Really good to be here.
So first off, putting that in at the end,
always
backing vocalist for some of the greatest pop singers in the world.
I'll just add that in.
You just got to add that in. Everybody sprinkles a bit of like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. So tell me more about that.
It's one of my party tricks. So, some people roll their tongue. Some people can do other things with their hands. Mine is, I've sang for Madonna. Mine is, I have also sang for Luther Vandross. Mine is, I sang for Stormzy. So these are my party tricks based on reality. So I'm also a backing vocalist. So I'm part of an agency, and whenever they need extra singers, so like usually you've got the celebrity, the singer at the front, and then you've got 3 or 4 people at the back who do this.
Yeah,
I'm usually one of those.
That's fantastic. Okay, how did you get into that?
Do you know, I've been singing all my life from a child. So being grown up in church, always singing, always told to sing from quite early. And then I joined a choir, and the choir had an agency. And then that's when I started doing singing for lots of different celebrities. I've done celebrity weddings, like here in the UK. There's a footballer called Wayne Rooney. So we sang for his son's christening, things like that. And we've sang at people's weddings, we sang on TV. And obviously then the opportunity came up for certain pop singers who want to have like a different chorale behind them. And they always check our availability. If in between the other things that I do, if I'm free and I can go to the rehearsals, I go. And it's a beautiful place to be, because you get to travel a lot. You get to meet lots of people. And we do fashion, so we do Burberry, we do MAC. You get to meet so many wonderful people.
That's amazing, because obviously we're going to talk about your consulting business and your thought leadership business. But I think the one thing that's fascinating is that it's about mindset. It's like, well, are you? I'm sure you wouldn't call it a side hustle or anything like that, but trying something out and then keep trying that and allowing it to lead you wherever it leads, and then taking advantage of that. Like, it's just a really cool journey from church to Stormzy. There you go.
There you go. This is my creative side, isn't it? You have to tap in. My work is very, it can be very rigorous, especially the human resources stuff I do. It's all around law, it's best practices, it's doing the right thing. Sometimes I have people's destinies in my hand. I can say that actually I can advise a company and say, no, they need to go. And, someone's lost their job. So I have to be on top of it. But the singing just allows me to be a bit more creative and let
on top of it in a different way. Yeah, that's awesome. So, so going back to that, and just in terms of creativity and this move, this balance of that, you actually started off from a corporate kind of environment, corporate background.
Yeah.
And obviously now you've grown your own business.
Yeah.
You just said, and I'd love to dig into like the stresses and the challenges of just running your own business, let alone the kinds of challenges that you might have advising a specific company. But can you talk me through how it all started? When and at what point were you thinking, you know what, I don't want to be corporate anymore. I want to start something myself. What was going through the mind during that process?
Yeah, well, Rob, do you know what? It's so different how when I hear other people's stories about this, I feel mine is completely different because
Great.
I was really happy being employed. I was very happy working for corporate, and although there were some people around me who were saying, "Oh, I'm no longer going to be an employee monkey, and I don't want to be living from paycheck to paycheck," but I was fine because, as far as I'm concerned, I had as much freedom as I wanted. I had my own office space. I had people to help me do the marketing, help me to do advertising if we were doing the recruitment. So, and we had the different disciplines in the organization. But I went to this conference, and they said, who here, I don't know, there was probably about 500 people, and they said, who here has started their own business and you want to pitch their business in front of all these people? And I was just looking at everybody, people's hands up and everything, and I was leaning like this, and my husband pushed, well, he wasn't my husband at the time, he pushed my arm up.
Risky.
Yes, well, we ended up getting married, so he did something.
It was good, yeah.
He pushed my arm up, and I was sitting towards the back. And would you believe I was called to the front? I was like, how? Why? What am I going to say? So I went up, and I had to go on stage, had to take the mic, and I had to almost talk about this fictitious company. So I made sure, I'm not going to perjure myself here and say, yes, my company does this. What I'll just do is talk about the practices of human resource management and how organizations need it to drive people performance. So I did it from that perspective. So I talked about me and how I work. And then I had some questions like fired across at me, and I was able to answer that. When I got off stage, I had so many people gravitate towards me and said, Michelle, we need your help. Oh, we need somebody to look over our contracts, and we've got these new employees, they're quite problematic, what shall I be doing? And I was like inundated, and people were saying, oh, so how much do you charge for this? And where's your website? And I said, listen, I'm new to this, so let me work on it. And I think within that week I had about 6 different appointments, and I was charging everyone like 50 quid because I had no idea on pricing at all. 50 quid, and I was meeting them in coffee shops, and it was such a funny time. And then what I did is, like, I went to bed, and it's like something just dropped in my spirit. Michelle, you like to partner with people, you're good with people, so call yourself the people's partner. And you know what? Just like that, then I registered it on the government website on HMRC, and I started the business from then. So I was still working in corporate, but then now I had this side business, and then I made the full transition when a few years later, because I was still like, this is not what my
doing some stuff on the side. You were still, and
then I decided to, okay, let's give it another year in my position as a HR director, and then leave. And that's what I did. And then I went it alone and never looked back. But it's been a journey.
Never looking back doesn't necessarily mean not wishing to look back. Right? So what was that like when you made that decision that you said, you kind of said to yourself, okay, I gotta go full hog into this?
Yeah, it was very nerve-wracking for me because I'm as a person, I'm quite risk averse. And I like to know that I'll do this work and I'll get this money, and I know that somebody will take care of accounts, somebody will do that. But becoming an entrepreneur, and one that needs to make money, so you're not the hobbyist. My gosh, it was a lot of work. I had so much to learn because I hadn't gone to any business training. I had no mentor. And I was just picking up things on YouTube. I was buying books. I was just learning as I go along. And I was playing it all by ear, really. And I think I did that for the first 2 years of my business. I was just like trying to make it up. And all I saw myself is I'm just good at my job. But I didn't realize being an entrepreneur is much more than just being good at the delivery of the job.
Yeah.
It's all the other facets that you need to be in charge of and look after, like websites, accounting, the marketing. Who knew that I had to be my own marketer, and I had to go out and advertise for work, and had to deal with people who wanted discounts, and I find it hard to say no, and it's all of this I didn't have to deal with, and I was fully employed.
But so you're a risk averse person. Yeah. You've just laid out all the different reasons why you should not be doing this. What finally convinced you that you could?
Do you know what? When I realized that actually, Michelle, you can do this. You're very good at what you do. And if you just find a group or a mentor where you can learn a bit more from it and put structure to it, so create a framework, have SOPs, which are standard operation procedures. So I thought, if I can get someone to help me with that, I could make this work. And what I started doing is looking at other HR consultancies. You know, how do they put their proposals together? How do they put their standard of contracts together? And then I started to learn. I thought, okay, actually, I can do this. And I think my big wake up call is when somebody said that they're gonna, I can't remember how much they were willing to pay me, but I was like, oh, now we're talking. and then we continue.
And so did you seek out then a group? Did you I know you kind of, you had this maybe inner confidence because of the experiences that you were having. And it seems like you very rationally said, okay, cool. I'm unpracticed, but I know I got the stuff, kid, that kind of a feeling. And then you just needed, a bit of mentorship. Was it tough finding one?
It was tough in the sense that when you come into the entrepreneurial space, everybody is a mentor.
Of course.
Coach. I'm thinking, who do I go? So it's about taking recommendations from people. And I believe for me, the person that I wanted to work with me, we would have to have similar values. So like one of my values is trust and there's integrity. And so I didn't want to work with somebody who says one thing and does another. So I took my time, did my due diligence, and really found out about, and they didn't have to be making 8 figures and 7 figures. I wanted somebody who was making more than me and were just ahead of me, rather than somebody who's like way out and I could never speak to them. I couldn't just pick up the phone. For me, I needed to know that if I was stuck on something, or if I wanted you to review something, that if I give you enough notice, you've got time to do that for me. So that was really important.
And where did you find this person? Did you find them from the entrepreneurial side or the consultancy side of things, or did you find them from the HR world side? Like what where was that?
I actually found them from the entrepreneurial side. So somebody was saying, I need a business coach to help me put together like a different frameworks, and then I can sell that as my proprietary. And then I thought, okay, let's do that. Let's see how it goes. And you know, I've gone through a couple of mentors since then. I've always gone back to that one as well. But as the business started to grow, then I was thinking, do I need someone who's got more HR experience, or do I want someone who's got more consulting experience? So then, you know, throughout your whole life, you have different mentors for different purposes. But I think it was invaluable. Absolutely. And we don't know what we don't know. So you need somebody else who's got that foresight and insight to be able to direct and guide you.
Very cool. So then you're now getting confidence. You're now going out there. You're now growing. A big thing that I know you talk about is positioning, and it sounds like, I mean, a lot of people talk about the importance of positioning yourself as soon as possible, and I imagine you probably feel the same way. But you also were going through this in a more experimental fashion, right? So yeah, how did you approach the positioning question? And maybe how long did it take? Like, how complicated was it?
Well, this is the interesting thing. It does take some time, but the positioning, it helps your personal brand. So because I was doing HR first, I started making sure I was talking about HR everywhere and anywhere to whoever. I made sure that my content reflected my HR experience. If I was going to be interviewed, we will talk about human resources. So then I started positioning myself as a HR expert, and I didn't niche down. And I guess if I can say I niched down, it was in leadership. I would say it was in the leadership. And then I noticed that I was getting calls from people who wanted someone who could deliver leadership training with a HR expertise. So that started happening. The funny thing is, once that was created and was just running itself, I veered off into visibility strategy, because I noticed, even when I was doing the HR, there's internally, I noticed there's so many people were so hugely skilled and they have so much competence, but no one knows that they exist. So within the workplace, there's people who say that they want to be promoted, they want to progress, but they're just another number to people that make that decision, because you haven't put your head above the parapet. No one really knows that you exist. You're just going over like a cog. So I just thought, gosh, I wonder if I can take what I do with these people when we're doing their PDP, their professional development plan, and use it for entrepreneurs who want to become more visible. So what I did, I started to train around this. I put some hours behind it, I put some money behind it, and I got a mentor in this. And I thought, I feel confident enough to do this. So then I started helping entrepreneurs who wanted to become more visible and really create their personal brand, but get them featured in the press, in the media, delivering podcasts and speaking engagements, or getting them visibility to work in the corporate space. So it's all around visibility. Now, I speak about visibility all the time. I have lots of posts about visibility, but if I ask people, what am I known for? Because I did this exercise, people still say HR.
Right.
Still say HR. Yeah. So it takes time to embed. And some people say visibility because they know me only in that capacity, because they're new into my network. But people who knew me before, they still know me for HR.
So how though? So I guess a common thread here is like succeeding in a corporate environment, whether or not it's HR or not. Do you take the fact that you started life in that world as a key reason why you're able to continue to break into it on behalf of clients, or help them break into it? I guess my question is, the leading part of the question is, you came from an HR corporate background, and part of your consulting is targeted at that. Yes. Is a big part of that because you know the problems from being in there? And if so, would you recommend that if somebody is thinking about starting their own consultancy business, for them to do some sort of self-analysis about that unfair advantage? Or is it a case that actually your background wasn't necessarily super helpful? It was more the interest and the knowledge about the law or the processes that drove you?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think for me, because I had some knowledge, some inclination into that field, I kind of had an idea how I can help people get into the corporate. So this is entrepreneurs or solopreneurs who work mainly in the entrepreneurial space, but who can also sell their services into corporate. But what I find, like, there's a lot of people who have never worked in corporate, but they want to sell in corporate, and they thought, oh my God, I won't be able to get in. But I said, and I continue to say, it's about your knowledge, is finding out. And there's so much resources and sources out there where you can find out about an industry. And what people tend to do is they have a scattergun approach and they want to do everything, the fear of missing out. And I say, choose one industry and hone into that industry. Do your deep work into that industry. So if your industry was the automotive, and once you understand how it works, the disciplines around that, understand the trends of the automotive industry, where they're going, what's going to happen post-COVID. If you can know about that, then you can single in and start to work with BMW, because you understand the industry that they operate in. And then you can move to Mercedes, and then you can move to Hyundai or Ford, because you understand the industry. So I always say to people, as part of you positioning yourself is understanding the left, the right, the center, the behind of an industry. And there's so many sources out there, like their websites. You can look at press releases. You can also look at, there's lots of statistical data out there that talks about trends. It talks about shareholders, what they're looking for in terms of the different industries. And because companies, they want to hire an expert that knows about their industry. They're not going to just hire you because you are a nice person or you look good on paper. But what they want to know is, do you understand our current challenges? Do you understand what is likely to happen? Do you understand what's happened before? Do you understand about what we have to do for our shareholders and the team? So once you get to understand that, it opens up so many doors for you.
So when you're thinking of that though, and if let's just say you're just starting out and maybe you have a bit of background, but you don't, and let's use your example of the automotive industry. What are some ways that you, or what do you advise people when they are thinking about how do I position myself so that VW might hire me for some project in a way other than, I don't know, what someone might think up the top of their head? Like, are there certain tactics that you think, especially when you're just trying to break into the corporate space and selling to corporates, that people should be actively doing?
Yeah, there's two things that I would definitely do. The first thing is the use of social media. Is you need to start putting out credible content in around the area of expertise that you have. So if you want to get into the automotive, you might, and you're talking, if you want to speak to a specific department, start talking about things that might be relevant to them. Have posts about it, do videos about it. And it's got to be higher level. I would say higher level than just saying 3 tips to do this.
Yeah.
You want to show insights. You want to show a high level of expertise. So that's the first thing. So always put data in there, always put stats in there. The second thing is networking. And I know that we tend to say it, but we don't really do it. But I think networking is key to getting in these industries. So what I've tended to do, I used to do lots of work in the UAE, and I want to go back and do some more work. And I now have to rebuild those relationships. So what I've done is join lots of different networks in the UAE. So it could be the Dubai Women Council, it could be Dubai Networking, but I want to be in that space. I want to hear. I've also put on notifications on Google Alerts, news, what's happening in the UAE, specifically Dubai. So I know what's current, what's being talked about. So I'm always feeding myself with this information so that when I'm speaking to somebody, and like more recently, I connected with someone from Barclays in Dubai, their head of talent. I can build my rapport with them because I'm into talent management and HR, and I have a focus in the UAE. So there's some commonality and rapport. Then I can talk about what's happening in the UAE because I've been reading about the trends. So Google Alerts is a really great tool that people should definitely use to get some information around the area.
That's a great suggestion. I think that there are a few things there that, again, you might think sound basic from the high level, but when you get into it, often leads to either confusion if you're not going about it the right way, but clear, actionable skills or actionable things to take forward if you are approaching it the right way. Yes. So I guess on the flip side, I always love asking people this, like, when you're talking to people about positioning themselves, or when you're looking to see how other consultants are positioning themselves, what do you see that doesn't work, or that really irritates you or really frustrates you, as to maybe you can see someone trying something and it's probably not going to work out well for them?
Yeah, I think I want to go back to, in terms of the content, you need to be the content creator, but I want people to move away from just talk about the 3 steps too.
Sure.
But it's about thought leadership.
Yeah.
So that means you have to do your homework. You can't just wake up one morning and think, yes, I'm going to put out a post. It takes a bit of research. So you might have to read a couple of books or read a couple of periodicals and then frame your own opinion. And I always ask these 2 questions to people. What do you want to lead on? What is happening in the world and no one's talking about it? Or you can bring a different angle to it. And being able to position yourself is to be able to lead on something. You must lead on something. And then I always say, what conversations do you want to be a part of? So what conversations are already out there on Twitter? Twitter is such a great form of information because it's fast paced. It shows you what's trending. And I always look at Twitter, and I look at Twitter probably just once a day to see what's topical. And I always think I need to have a voice on what's topical now. It doesn't always have to be within HR or visibility or personal branding, but I need to have a voice on what's being talked about within the world. So there are two questions that I ask myself and ask others in terms of positioning. What can you lead on, and what conversations do you want to be a part of? And that allows you to start thinking about it strategically.
Very cool. Very interesting. Putting a positive spin on that still, but it is interesting because, like, I think all of us, especially if you're starting off on your own, there's a lot of certainly there's a lot of loneliness. The echo chamber is not necessarily your friend, and you also. There is this FOMO that you kind of, hinted at and talked about earlier, and you think you need to be everywhere. And that person right there is so much better than me. There's a lot of kind of imposter syndrome and the fact that you're lonely, that it is a lonely kind of thing in the first place it doesn't help. So, like, how do you approach that if someone is coming to you and thinking, hey, Michelle, I don't know, this Georgia character, she's so much better than me at everything. I don't know how I can compete with that. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this in the first place. Are there things that you maybe suggest to them or to gently maybe shake them into a bit more of an optimistic? Yeah.
This happens a lot. And the thing is, people think it just happens when you're just starting out in your career, but it can happen also when you're later on down the road. But the very first thing I would say to anybody is be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself and know you're new to this. And so you shouldn't be comparing your chapter 3 with somebody's chapter 23. And you're thinking, oh, but they're doing this, but they've been in it longer. They've been doing it for a longer period of time. Yeah. And I always say, start with what you have access to. Start with that. And what it's about being consistent. You get in, and it's about getting into a habit. So it's not being consistent. Oh, like, I have to do it. And it's almost like a chore. You have to make it like a habit. And once you might find the right platform, and you don't have to be on all the platforms, and you don't have to show up all the time. There's different ways that you can do this, where you might say, you know what, I want LinkedIn to be my place because I like LinkedIn and my clients are on LinkedIn. And you utilize LinkedIn and do what works best for you. So if it's doing a post, do the post, but be regular in the post. Or if it's doing the long form, then do that, because everybody will tell you, actually, you should do this, you should do that. One thing I would say is video content. Video is a game changer. So I would always say to put that in your strategy, and not everybody likes it, but you can do video without showing yourself.
Sure.
You can do video and you can just bring in other sites, other artifacts. Yeah. You can do that, and you can do these really well on Canva. So canva.com is such a brilliant tool that you can use, and you can do audios on there. But the reason why I'll say definitely videos, because it gets you one step closer to somebody. And right now we're trying to build trust, and seeing somebody as well as hearing them helps build that trust and removes that barrier to entry. But yeah, you don't need to be on all the platforms. Be kind to yourself. Find the one thing you like to do and double down on it. Double down on it.
I think that's a great message to finish off on, especially if anybody is listening and there's one thing that you take away from that. It is about clear head, being kind to yourself. As soon as you're able to, as soon as you have confidence to, double down on what you know works. Yeah. And like, not that all is big, isn't big, but after that it becomes easier, and it you start to spot trends, and trends calm you down. That's a really, really interesting insight. Thank you so much, Michelle. And thanks so much for taking the time to speak just for a little bit today. I really do appreciate it. Anybody who is listening or watching, if you'd like to learn more about Michelle and all the things that she's up to, you can find her on all of the social media platforms, even though you don't have to, you have to go to use them all, particularly LinkedIn. And you can search for her if you just search for Michelle with 2 L's Raymond. And then also on Instagram at Michelle_Raymond1. Thanks again, Michelle.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.